President Biden says the American people spoke loud and clear to preserve democracy and protect the right to choose. As the Biden administration celebrates today's announcement, RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel says voters are really ticked off. President Biden has already created a cancer cabinet to address several issues. President Biden says the CHIPS and Science Act will lower costs, create jobs, strengthen supply chains. Morning consult surveys show Democrats hold a narrow edge over Republicans. Attorney General Merrick Garland has appointed a special counsel to investigate President Biden. California Republican Congressman Kevin McCarthy says he's staying in the fight. The House has to continue to vote until a new speaker is elected. The VA says veterans can file a claim immediately after the president signs the bill. Steve Bannon was sentenced to 4 months in prison and ordered to pay a $6,500 fine. The U.S. has 374 treaties with Native Americans and tribes due to a section of federal law. The committee wants it on the record they tried to talk to the former president. Democratic candidates, elections officials, and government watchdog groups say this is not as big a deal as Governor DeSantis is making it out to be. At what point are we just going to declare this COVID-19 pandemic an endemic?
COVID's around. It is going to be around forever.
How much responsibility do you feel being the first Jewish spouse of a vice president?
I feel a lot, Josh.
I will support the Republican nominee, whoever that is.
Even if it is the former president?
I will support the Republican nominee.
I heard and saw things no child, no person should ever have to see.
17-year-old Jackie Haggerty was just 7 years old when a gunman came into her school in Newtown, Connecticut, and murdered 20 kids and 6 teachers.
The last 10 years have not been easy, but living my life honoring the victims has helped.
Haggerty was among the many who gathered Wednesday at St. Mark's Episcopal Church in Washington to mark the 10th anniversary of the Sandy Hook Massacre and other shooting tragedies.
And we ask God to give us the strength.
President Biden consoling all the survivors and victims of the countless incidents by reminding them he knows what it feels like to lose a child.
It's like a black hole in the middle of your chest you're being dragged into, and you never know if there's ever a way out.
Biden says some progress has been made to try and stop gun violence, pointing to the bipartisan Safer Communities Act he signed in June. The law enhances background checks for gun buyers under 21, supports red flag laws, among other things. In the meantime, the president telling the families not to lose hope.
You are the light. You are literally the light. And your loved ones, your friends, they're the light. And they'll always be with you, no matter what happens.
And President Biden also renewed his call for a nationwide assault weapons ban. However, if Congress does not pass a bill by the end of the year, it's unlikely that'll happen, given Republicans will take control of the House in January. Veterans suffering from illnesses related to burn pits and other toxins have struggled to get the care they need covered by the Department of Veterans Affairs. President Biden says he's hoping to put an end to that by signing the PACT Act.
The PACT Act is the least we can do.
The president signing the PACT Act Wednesday means the more than 3.5 million veterans that have been exposed to some form of toxins can apply for immediate care through the Department of Veterans Affairs.
The most important thing is let's validate their work. The next thing is now let's get to work on executing this. That's how we're thinking about it.
One of the highlights of the bill includes the VA no longer requiring vets and their families to prove their illnesses came from exposure in order to get covered. It means a lot to Patricia Cram, who lost her husband Mike, an Iraq war vet, to prostate cancer in 2017.
When you're going through the death of your loved one, you want to spend all your time caring for, spending time with. And you don't want to be on the phone with a VA, rushing to the post office to send more documentation that they, quite frankly, already have.
The PACT Act signing signifies President Biden delivering on a promise he made during his State of the Union address. It is something June Heston, who also lost her husband Mike, an Afghanistan war vet, to pancreatic cancer in 2018, will always cherish.
I had people texting me saying, "Are you watching this?" And I said, "I am." So now I feel like we did it. And he was right there with us because he knows exactly what this means.
Heston referring to Biden's son Beau, who died of brain cancer, which the president believes was developed from burn pit exposure. Any veteran who has been exposed can now file a claim at va.gov/PACT. And President Biden says signing the PACT Act is a sacred obligation to the troops we send into harm's way and their families when they return home. At the White House, I'm Josh Rultenberg.